You know how yesterday I said how you wake up to a new arsehole every day and you'd love to be able to block them, but you're not going to because you don't believe in censorship? Case in point, ArgusEyes, round 2. Firstly, you make much ado out of ridiculing my sense of patriarchy.
Far be it for me to get in the way of your intellectual masturbation, but could you please define your terms more clearly? Patriarchy would be ruled by males, at least according to the dictionary that I know you like to use so much. How can a democracy be patriarchy? And yes, I have read a number of opinions on the subject.
And yet your reading on the area obviously didn't stretch as far as the Oxford English Dictionary, in which patriarchy can obviously be shown to be patriarchy. Noun. Definition 1. Relating to the Christian Church. Doesn't concern us. Definition 2. As a form of social organisation in which the father or oldest male is the head of the family, and descent and relationship are reckoned through the male line. Government or rule by a man or men. As a count noun. A society, community, etc. governed and organised in this way. Or 3. The predominance of men in positions of power and influence in society with cultural values and norms being seen as favouring men. And this is your usage, ArgusEyes. Good reading. And this is as it appears in the Oxford English Dictionary. Unless there's a feminist conspiracy going on there, I think it's fair for me to use terms as they appear in the dictionary without fear of you overblowing them as flagrant emotional appeals. So let's go back to that third definition of patriarchy, that is to say, the predominance of men in positions of power and influence in society with cultural values and norms being seen as favouring men. Firstly, demonstrating the predominance of men in positions of power and influence on society. And what do you know, I've already put out a video on this subject. I'll just recycle that one for you, shall I? There are currently 646 MPs in the House of Commons, of which 521 are male and 125 are female. That represents a fifth. I'd say when women are a fifth of government, it's fair to use the term patriarchal with some accuracy. This is how a democracy can be inherently patriarchal in structure. We elect one leader who sits over a body of other leaders who sit above us as the general population within a democracy. That's obviously a patriarchal hierarchy. Similar structures of patriarchal hierarchy are pervasive through all sections of society, in domestic spheres, economic spheres, that is to say the workplace, in educational establishments, and even in socialist structures such as hospitals. We live in a capitalist society where money is power. Thus, if you have no money of your own because you're at home having babies instead of in the workplace, as is your place within a capitalist structure, you are completely disenfranchised. I'd say it's an entirely accurate usage of the term capitalist patriarchy. Secondly, with cultural values and norms being seen as favouring men. Well, it's inherent here in the words being seen as that it's a matter of opinion whether or not you think socialising women to only ever appear as the women in laundry adverts who are overwhelmingly happy with having their children and doing the laundry for the husband while he's at work. I'm not happy with that image of women. I think we're so much more than that. Now, Argus, it's story time. You feel free to close your eyes and have a little nap, and I'll wake you up when we're done, but the rest of us are going to review actual scientific fact. So here we have a book entitled The Social Psychology of Gender by Sean Megan Byrne. Yes, you'll notice that it is a psychology book, in fact, and not a feminist book. The role of normative pressure. Normative pressure results from the fact that we often conform to societal or group expectations, social norms, to avoid social rejection. This obviously plays a role in our adherence to gender roles. Several studies have found that gender inconsistent behaviour is particularly likely to interfere with the popularity of boys. Burnt and Heller, 1986, Houston, 1983, Martin, 1990. So it just goes on and on, listing studies showing the role that normative pressure plays, the pressure of being the norm, the social role which is presented to you, contributing to your identification with your gender. Furthermore, the role of informational pressure. Informational pressure refers to the fact that we rely heavily on social information to increase our knowledge about ourselves and the world and to gain information about appropriate attitudes regarding social issues. Smith, 1982. In other words, sometimes we conform, not simply because we fear social disapproval if we do not, but because we really do not know what to think, feel or believe, do without the guidance of others. And this brings us nicely on to our next point, in which you seem to suggest that biology is some kind of immutable prison and completely underplay the role of socialisation.
On gender differences, I believe that we should all examine the things we believe in life to honestly assess whether or not they are true. Take, for example, the common claim that women use more words per day than men do. The numbers you will hear are cited are different in every case, but they always cite that women use more words every day than men do.
Yeah, Argus, you're still doing it though, aren't you? Despite me disproving that theory in my last video, you're still basing your observations on the difference between men and women on the product of their social constructs, on the results of what society has created them to be, and not on what they naturally are. You're proving nothing.
Different areas of the male and female brain are used in sounding out words, along with our plain and common sense observation of our sisters and mothers and female friends talking more on the phone than in the office. Given this fact, it is not a huge leap.
I don't think I even want to be making small leaps. If your logic holds, then there's no reason for us to be leaping anywhere.
Posit that the actions and careers that men and women could take are influenced by our genetic and biological differences. I see an obvious nurturing advantage in women. Evolutionary programmed to aid in the protection of young, no doubt.
Are you responding to my videos or just your idea of what you think feminism is? I clearly said in my last video. I'm not saying that men and women are biologically the same or even hormonally or behaviourally naturally the same. I'm saying that we don't know what we naturally are. That's simply enough for you? I'm certainly not going to allow anyone to oppress me on things that they've observed without any kind of controls on the experiment whatsoever. Being that every participant in every study you cite has been socialised within our society, amazingly enough, you cannot possibly have the controls that would demonstrate biological preferences or behaviour. And I'm not saying they're not there, I'm just saying you haven't demonstrated them.
To not have to deal with the obvious black eye that the David Reimer case gives to feminism.
Hold on there, the David Reimer case only gives a black eye to feminism if women's right to equality depends upon their biological similarities to men. I don't need to know that I'm biologically the same as you to know that I can function in a capitalist workplace as well as you can.
On the topic of evil.
Topic of evil? This sounds like a verifiable academic discussion.
Quote, victimhood. A lifelong study of good and evil has led me to conclude that the greatest single cause of evil is people perceiving of themselves or their group as victims. Nazism arose from German sense of victimhood as a result of the Versailles Treaty.
And it then goes on to compare feminism to Nazism, communism, prisoners. The Nazis had that sense of victimhood in the first place because of the socialisation they'd received from their government. You've just proved the power of socialisation with your example.
You have no excuse. From now on, whenever you open that dictionary and say that feminism is about equality, know that you are participating in a massive lie, for what you come to support in reality is sexism and oppression by the very definition of those words that you will find in that same dictionary.
That bit had no relevance to my argument, I just left that in so we could all have a good laugh at the irony of Angus taking the piss out of me for using a dictionary whilst not being able to use the word oppression himself.
Lacked clarity, merely reciting dogma. Far be it for me to get in the way of your intellectual masturbation according to the dictionary that I know you like to use so much, writing that raises the bar for decadence quite a bit. This is not a rational argument, and to be quite honest, it reeks of conspiracy theory, as do a lot of your videos. What evidence you have presented would get a failing grade in any science class for the lack of proper isolation of variables. You can't shame me with such dishonest tactics. Let's see the intellectual honesty with which you approach this issue. That was particularly loathsome. Your supercilious little dismissal. You grasped onto any little scrap of information that you could use. Bigoted actions frequently do so on twisted belief systems. Nazism, communism, evildoers. A woman whose mind has become so twisted as to act like women are oppressed by some nebulous patriarchal force, governmentally mandated superior statuses to women. A massive lie. Sexism and oppression, a club of totalitarians who use their grievances to push for tyranny over liberty and bring more misery upon earth.
And that, my friend, is why you get no more video responses. Naughty Argus. Crawl back under your rock, man. Seriously, no one cares.